Starting the Google Plus broadcast.
This Google Plus broadcast brought to you by TypeScript.
Yes, thank you. You said it.
The language invented to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
So today we're going to be talking about TypeScript.
The greatest thing Anders ever did. I love Anders. My name is Just Chadwick, and I have a picture of Anders by my bedside.
I'm going to start posting one in the back for every show.
Thank you, Anders,
You gotta
for
have one
inventing
next week.
TypeScript.
Or your book or something. You gotta have something.
Thank you, Anders, for inventing TypeScript. The web was not enterprisey enough.
I'm gonna save my comments. All right.
Was I supposed to save all that for the show?
I'm just going to open up the show. We're going to talk. We're going to prepare for an hour beforehand on some other content, and I'm just going to open up the show and say, tonight we're going to be talking about TypeScript. So, Todd, what do you think? Do it.
I'm gonna be like WebAssembly, WebAssembly, WebAssembly. Solve real problems, not invent synthetic sugar.
Okay. Well, at the risk of this being an hour and a half podcast,
Yes, let's go.
let me get Audacity started. I haven't even done that yet. And then I gotta close down some other things here. Let's see. Save,
Come on, we gotta try to get done by midnight. That's the goal.
Done this episode.
We're not doing TypeScript tonight.
All right. Hold on.
I want to prepare. I want to have all my ducks in a row.
Todd, can you try muting, Todd? Does it still click?
Yes.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, it still clicks.
Did you just do it? Oh, you hear it click? Oh, in Audacity. Yeah.
I see it jump.
Yeah, I don't hear it. We don't hear it click on the Google.
I know, it's annoying.
That's
I thought about doing my
weird.
in Windows itself,
Oh, so you know what?
and I did a little test, and it
Yeah.
didn't seem like it did any good either.
I have some input about muting, by the way.
Okay.
What?
So, you know how I've been fighting background noise, right?
Yeah.
One
My-
episode.
My breathing's background noise.
Here's what I did in one episode. I opened the recording applet of some kind, and I was literally had my finger over. You know how you can mute in the stupid. I mean, it's ridiculous to get to, but in the recording devices applet,
Yeah.
you can mute. So I was doing that, and the reason why I was doing that is that one episode, actually I tested this beforehand. I didn't use it in an episode. I was hitting the mute button on this mic, and it clicked every time.
Yeah, that's what mine does.
When I had the headset and I could hold the mute button in a hand over here, it was great. It was awesome. Like, it didn't even come up on the podcast. It was the coolest thing ever. But the problem is then I said, okay, well, now that I have this blue microphone, I'm gonna use the touchpad on my laptop and just hover my finger over it, and it was silent. Here's the problem, though. I started noticing that when Jess was putting the podcast together, that it was obvious when I was unmuting, like all of a sudden the hiss of the noise in my room. Yes. And what if I didn't say anything? What if I just unmuted because I thought I was going to get a chance to talk, but then you guys kept going? So you would hear Jess talking, and then you'd hear, and then it would go off. So I've actually decided not to mute. Like, just let it just be as quiet as I freaking can. And then I use Audacity's noise reduction feature to try to get rid of the hiss.
Yeah.
Which reminds me,
Todd's breathing is the worst on his recording.
it doesn't have breathing.
I am asthmatic. Thank you.
And I think oh no. I was going to say the TV. I heard the TV last time, but it wasn't the TV. It was your speakers, the voice of a bus coming through your headset.
Yeah, which was weird because the other times I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, you had turned it low. It wasn't a problem before.
That actually reminded me to switch to my podcast chair, which doesn't creak.
Yes. So you were becoming
All the
professional.
creaking.
Yeah, but look at this chair, dude. Look at this.
Did you get that at a yard sale?
It's the only chair I could find in the house because I tested them. I'm like, okay, let me try this chair. And I would go, oh, nope, there's a creak there. And then I got this one. See, it's good.
Mine creaks a little bit. I just need some WD-40 or something.
Well, now that our live audience has heard about
Our problem.
the pre-show. It's the pre-show. This is
Actually-
the magic.
Do you have a link? Because I can evangelize it to the people on the West Coast.
We already have one viewer. Help him.
Where's?
God.
Do you
Can
have
go
a
up-
link?
Do you
Is there
have
a link I can?
Is there a thing up top that says invite people, or is that just me?
That's premise, yeah.
Like a controller? Okay, here. This is the link that it says to invite people,
Okay.
which is the same as the one that I just sent you. So those people are going to come on. Hold on, don't do that.
Yeah, that's not the one I want to use, right?
Probably not.
Well, actually, it's a little different. It's Hangouts and then /call instead of being.
Okay,
I don't know.
sure.
I don't know. Do you think it's an administrative one?
Go ahead and try it. Let's see. Let me.
Not that anyone's going to come on, but I was just going to put it in my chat with my West Coast friends. We're probably all playing Halo or something anyway.
It looks like it prompts you to accept again. Let me leave, and I'm gonna accept this and see if I can see you guys. You want to do that?
Oh God.
No. I won't.
Just send that out. It's fine. Maybe they just come in and they ruin the whole thing. Fine.
Like
Nobody's gonna come in.
Like they're going to come in anyway.
Yeah, nobody's
What's
gonna
Aaron
come
doing
in.
it this time?
Really loud.
That was
All right. Okay, so I'm ready to hit the record button, Jess.
What's semicolon?
I don't know. I just killed it.
Oh, you just edited it.
Where's Jess's picture? Why don't we get to see him
Ted. What?
on video?
You don't have a lower third, Jess.
You don't even have a Jess. Like when Jess, it's just his smug.
There you go. There's a lower third.
What?
Why do you keep getting muted?
Yeah, that's very weird.
Oh, I'm also not seeing Jess, by the way. Like
What?
it's just his picture down there.
Right here?
Yes, yeah.
Nah. I mean, who knows?
I see all you. Except you occasionally go mute for some reason.
Oh, our visitor left. Nope, they're back. Okay.
That's probably like this SEO engine or something.
Yeah, right. It's actually the Google Spider, right?
Hey! You can see us.
But no, I can't see Jess. See how it's just his picture?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Ooh, what the hell? But
I
you
don't
can
know.
see me, Todd.
Yeah, I can see.
I'm not sure I'm going to worry about it.
Hold on.
Oh, great. Now I got to shut off my screen share. Which I can't.
Is this good?
It is, but it turns out screen share is not letting me shut off. So
This is the live pre-show of the Static Void podcast. Join us next time where we might actually record an episode.
Also known as 3 developers try to set up an AV recording.
It's a hardware problem.
three developers try to use Google Hangouts.
Yeah, it's a hardware problem. All right.
Everything
okay.
looks normal now except for Jess's missing lower third.
Fuck.
I just
We
had
really
to
should
say.
name it. That's like the tagline. The lower third. Static Void podcast.
Brought to you by the lower third.
It's like Sesame Street. Brought to you by the letter X. Letter V for void.
Okay, good? Are we good? Yeah?
Now,
Yeah.
how do you plan to throw it over to me after your eloquent opening?
I have no idea. I'm going to stumble through it. I'll say, hey, Christ, what do you think?
So, Chris, can you kind of tell us what your experiences are? Or
I don't know. What do you think?
So wait, you're going to say, why are package managers relevant to us at all? And that's where you're stopping.
Well, yeah, and so then, I mean,
So
feel free
why
to
don't-
let me know
don't-
what. But I was going to talk about my my TypeScript thing in here somewhere, either before the intro or
okay.
after the intro. So I was going to do the basic intro, right? So what package managers are available to use and why are they relevant, blah blah blah. Before we get into that, I just wanted to say, like, I recorded a free TypeScript course this weekend. It's up on YouTube. You know, feel free to go and check it out. It's a high level introduction to TypeScript to help get you started. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. Tonight we're talking about package management and what? Chris is gonna. I can just say Chris is gonna be our moderator tonight.
seems a little staged. I would just simply say,
How about you just say, tonight we're going to talk about package management, and when you stop, we make an agreement that I'm going to talk next. And then the thing is after that, I will have a question directly to somebody.
Perfect. Yes.
It's a mystery who will have the question, though.
Everyone, stay on your toes.
So the cat, what do you use package management? Cheap first pounce.
All right. So when you're
Don't
tonight,
promote
we're going to
against
talk about package
TypeScript.
management, and then you're going to stop, and then I'm just going to pick it up.
Cool. Okay. Good. Ready to go?
Yep.
Sure. Let's give it a whirl.
3, 2, 1, go. Hello, and welcome to the Static Void Podcast. I'm Jess Chadwick.
I'm Todd Snyder.
And I'm Chris Gomez.
And we are your hosts.
Or your host.
We're recording this on the evening of November 15th, 2015, and in this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about package management for .NET developers. What does package management mean? What package managers are available for us to use? And why are package managers relevant to us at all? We're going to be getting into all of that. Before we get started, I just wanted to kind of let everybody know I actually recorded a free little video, a training video about TypeScript this past weekend. So you can check that out on YouTube. It's just called Introduction to TypeScript. I will include a link to it in the show notes. It's about an hour and a half long, hour and 40 minutes long, and just an overview of everything you need to know about TypeScript to get started with TypeScript. And it's free.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Cool. So yeah, but tonight we're going to talk about package managers, right? So
No. We're going to talk about TypeScript tonight. Who wants to talk about TypeScript?
Here it goes. No. So I probably when we talk about package managers in the .NET world, we're always pretty much talking about NuGet, which came to us in 2010. Not necessarily that it came to us in Visual Studio 2010. It sort of appeared out of band. It was going to be called DoPack, and Phil Hack on the ASP.NET team was just thrilled to introduce it to the world as a way for us to go get updates to binaries, maybe updates specifically to versions of MVC, so that the team could ship things without having to ship all kinds of tooling, and they just felt that the cadence of their ability to update what they were working on required either working too closely with what was going on with the entire .NET framework or Visual Studio. And I kind of feel like it's been embraced not just by the ASP.NET team, but by all Microsoft developers. And so, Jess, you've spoken quite a bit about NuGet. You had a great talk that many of us have been fortunate to hear. Do you get NuGet? So tell us, what did NuGet do for us?
Yeah, so NuGet solved the problem of, it kind of solved the problem of DLL. Not really. It helped. The fundamental problem that it solves is basically you have all of these assemblies that are out there on the web that you want to build your project on, right? So open source or otherwise, primarily open source, but there are some commercial vendors who have assemblies that they have their own NuGet feeds or whatever. But you have these assemblies out on the web. You want to get them down to your local machine. You want to get them added as references to your project, right? That's kind of the baseline of it. And then on top of that, these assemblies also have dependencies of their own. So a good example is one of the first packages I created was an open source project that I had, which was a log4net implementation or appender or an extension on top of Glimpse, right? So I created my own code that was a Glimpse extension. So my code kind of depended on the Glimpse assemblies. It extended them, so it depended on those assemblies, and it also implemented log4net abilities to Glimpse. So I also depended on the log4net assembly. So I created my code, my project, and so when I compiled that project, I had those 3 assemblies in my bin output, and that was great on my local machine. That was great for anybody who went to my GitHub repository and brought it down locally and tried to compile it and hopefully succeeded. But once I was done and I produced those as assemblies, I could then just create a NuGet package out of my assembly, my one DLL, my custom thing, and that package could point to the Glimpse package and the log4net package. And when I say package, it's pretty much interchangeable with the actual assembly because that's kind of what it translates to, right? So when you go and you install glimpse.log4net, it brings down Glimpse, if you don't already have it, obviously, and it brings down log4net.
Right.
So,
and it certainly prevented the documentation that you would have had to have written to say, hey, in order to use me, you got to go do all these other things and maybe write something in the web config.
Yeah, right.
So
Exactly. So, and above and beyond that, you could do kind of out of the box transforms, web config transforms. But so by simply that, I'm actually just doing this at work this week, creating a custom HTTP module that, obviously if you're going to bring this assembly that includes this HTTP module, that's all it includes. Obviously, if you're bringing in that project, you want to add it to your web config. So why don't I just make that part of bringing in that assembly, bringing in that NuGet package, is where I actually go in and add that module, that HTTP module reference to your web config automatically, and you don't have to do anything.
Right, and before that, we were probably reading some documentation and then bringing in like DLLs and hitting add reference. And so I personally think NuGet took the .NET world by storm, and it's become indispensable, and people rely on it. But what I'm curious about is Todd, you manage teams doing all kinds of different projects. You've told us before how you're constantly thinking in a file new project sense of, hey, I got to solve this problem for this customer, this problem for that customer. So in your sense, is NuGet indispensable to you? What do you use it for?
So as far as like package management and like adding references to DLLs, whether it be like Entity Framework or jQuery, all the projects. Sorry. The NuGet's highly used a lot.
Todd,
Pretty much
do you
all
want me
the
to start that again, Jess? Because he froze. Okay,
yeah, you
so
froze up, Todd.
From our perspective, Todd, you froze. Even though your recording is probably fine. So
ask the question again, and we'll just cut it.
Yeah. So the question is that you might have to pick the better question, Jess, the way it was asked, because I don't think I exactly remember. But
yeah, no, I won't record this one. I mean, I'll cut this one out and just pick it up.
So in any case, Todd, has NuGet become an indispensable tool for you, and what do you and your teams use it for?
So I work across several different types of projects. When there's new projects, we're definitely taking advantage of NuGet, whether it be adding Entity Framework assemblies or downloading jQuery or Bootstrap or whatever is needed for a project. And usually that's due through Visual Studio, this file not new. And then as we go through a project, if we need to add a new reference to something, we pretty much take advantage of what NuGet brings to the table. For older projects, though, they tend to be a couple different camps. One, some people want to move over to NuGet. There's a bunch of customers who they just don't want to embrace NuGet. They're used to manually having the assemblies themselves. Probably the biggest challenge I run into, there's two challenges. One is a lot of people like NuGet. They like the convenience from the developer's point of view, but they have a lot of concerns about when they go to put it on their build server. Does their build server not have access to the internet? How will things work?
Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of confusion, and I've even had some customers ask me about like how to set up your own internal one, and I know it's something that's possible, and I tried to do research on it, but it seemed like it was a lot of effort to get that far. So what a lot of customers still do is basically, right or wrongly, they end up using NuGet for development locally and checking all the packages into source control, which is not a very good thing. But it's their way of working around the problem of the build server doesn't have it, or they don't quite get how to do things. This seems to be a bigger problem for enterprises that may have 30 or 40 different development teams, and they really want to get back to the idea that these DLLs are one place. They're not scattered across every different project, which is what NuGet was trying to solve. It wasn't just the convenience from the developer to get things down. It's also now there's one place to get these things. And if I want to move from version 1 to version 1.2, I just ask NuGet to go download it for me.
Yeah, sure. And this might become relevant a little bit later. So do you think sometimes the unwillingness to use NuGet, Todd, is because they're afraid that since they haven't checked in the specific versions of binaries and client-side libraries, that when they go to bring it down later to build an important release, it's not going to be the same?
There is definitely some people that are concerned about that, particularly around different developers having different versions. That was one of the challenges before really NuGet came on the scene. You'd have one developer and he'll have .NET Framework 2.5 or whatever version you want to go with, but then another developer would have a slightly newer version or older version, and there was always this like, this works on my machine because they don't have the same stuff that you would do. I found once NuGet came on the scene, it seems like it addressed that to a certain degree. The problem is developers tend to hold on to old opinions. So even if they embrace it, their whole organization's kind of like, we're not sure. It's much easier. We put the DLLs into source control, then we know those are the right ones, or we put them on a file share or something like that. Like I said, though, it seems like with new projects, people are much more willing, or it's a convenient factor. I had this file not new, and I have everything. They're like, well, the package is there now. I'm just going to use it.
Yeah.
It's more the older projects, and I know personally when I first, I guess it was probably 2010, tried to bring NuGet into some older projects, there was some challenges making it work.
Yeah.
So it really gets into your experiences like anything else.
So I think you nailed it. That the developers are looking for that specific version of that specific package, and historically that has meant literally checking in that specific DLL, those bytes. But what NuGet does is it allows you to abstract that away and say, that specific version of that specific package, it exists on the internet somewhere, and you can go and get it ad hoc whenever you need to, presuming that your build server has access, or wherever you're building your project from has access to the internet, to the NuGet servers to go ahead and get it.
Yeah, just to follow on that real quick. So, since I work with a lot of different customers, sometimes we have to use virtual machines or remote desktop type sessions into customers. And it's kind of interesting. A lot of those type of environments are more locked down than even than the build servers. So it isn't just the build server. That seems to be the most common one, but there are things where they may not have internet access or limited internet access. So because of that sort of culture view of how you do development, in those places, NuGet's been somewhat of a challenge to get in place.
Yeah. Well,
probably the biggest one is more about this idea that, hey, I did it this way. Now NuGet's there, and it's kind of cool and kind of interesting, but I don't know if I trust it or want to use it. It's different than what I've done before. So what I've seen is actually, by NuGet's, I think, Chris, you said 2010.
Yeah.
That means it's 5 years old.
Yep.
Only within the last year have I seen customers actually start using it as they moved to 2013. Prior to that, their projects were so old that they didn't want to upgrade to NuGet.
Yeah, and isn't that interesting, right? Because if I took a quick poll between the three of us, I don't think any of us want to use source control as our place to hold binaries or client libraries that we depend on.
No,
we don't want it.
It's a horrible practice.
Yeah, we don't want it. So you don't think it's a good practice. I don't like it either. I think, is it fair to say, Todd, that just personally you don't like it, but you're in this real world of, hey, this is what my customers want to do, and that's going to come into play a little bit later because, so one of the things that became really popular, maybe almost around the same time, was the rise of jQuery, and jQuery was the canary that said, we're going to start doing more client-side web development. It was the library that allowed us to basically say, hey, we know there's some browser incompatibilities, but we're going to make it all work together with an API that was pretty easy to use, and we'll be happy again, or so we thought. Now, jQuery was one of the most popular NuGet packages created and downloaded, and still is. And I remember when this was all brand new, that a local MVP in the Philly area, an ASP.NET MVP named Chris Love, said from the very beginning that he really, really liked NuGet, but he thought for client-side scripts, it put them in the wrong place. And because NuGet, puts them in a certain spot in your file system, you're kind of stuck with them there because you'll kind of break. Jess, you may correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll kind of break the whole upgrade replace cycle if you move them.
If you change them at all, you'll break it. NuGet will refuse to stomp over changes that you've made.
Yeah. So whether or not Chris was right about what he said, it was an interesting concern, and so that brings.
It's funny how something as seemingly insignificant as that can be a huge deal breaker, right?
Yeah,
and I agree with Chris in this one.
Yeah, he just felt like for client-side scripts, he didn't want them in that scripts folder. He wanted them somewhere else, and he can't move them now and still be a NuGet consumer.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about before about like old projects versus new projects. A lot of that was related to that. The fact that NuGet is getting NuGet to work in the projects, but also just they were used to using something else, so it would seem like more work than it was worth it to do the effort.
No,
a new project, literally file new, you get everything, and they're like, well, it's in the scripts folder. That's good enough. I don't care.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people felt that way too. So VS 2015, besides all of the other things it addressed, whether it was some client Windows development, app stores, whatever, it included an early preview of ASP.NET 5. In fact, I think it was Beta 5. I'm not positive about that, only because I keep upgrading my ASP.NET betas to try to keep up. And I remember getting a lot of puzzled questions by folks that I talked to out in the community. They said, hey, I fired up an ASP.NET 5 project, and there's these new package managers, NPM and Bower. And so there's also some NuGet going on in there. So there's this combination. And Todd, I think you've seen this, right? So what was your first reaction when you fired up ASP.NET 5 and saw we now have 3 package managers in a template?
Yeah. So a couple different reactions. One is as a web developer, having been familiar with NPM and what Bower was being used for outside of the Microsoft world, it's like, good. This is something now I feel like has a little more credibility. I'll be able to bring it to clients. It won't be something else they'd have to learn or have to use outside of Visual Studio. The second thought was, so what does this mean for NuGet? And what does this mean to my customers? Because they're just now getting used to using NuGet. Is this going to change things on them? Is this going to introduce more work? Is there going to be something else they need to learn? I have a lot of customers that are just starting to really, over the last year or so, get into the whole client-side web development world. And in my experience, there tends to be a lot of different things, a lot of change happening. So on one front, it's good. I love seeing these things built into Visual Studio. It makes life easier. But I still think it's going to end up scaring a lot of developers. They're going to be like, what is this for? Why do I need it?
Okay.
Can I work around it? Do I have to use it?
Right. So you were already starting to think about taking a look at Bower and NPM. So, one of your reactions was in the editor, in the IDE, cool, but oh my gosh, people are going to say, what is this? I'm just getting used to NuGet.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, Jess, I'm curious, maybe you can tell us a little bit about just what NPM is.
Well, NPM is the Node package manager, right? That's what it stands for, and it was created to deliver Node packages, Node code. And so, just like other environments like Ruby gems and Python, what are they, Perls or something, a way to get kind of snippets of code around. Since it was JavaScript, they weren't dealing with assembled binaries, right? Assemblies.
It's always just text files then.
It's always just text file, right? It's always just JavaScript, right? JavaScript. And so, but the same concept, right? That a piece of code, a snippet of code, just if you consider it an assembly, just like in the NuGet world, it's dependent on other pieces of code, right? And so whether or not those things are compiled assemblies or snippets of JavaScript, it really doesn't matter. But you need all of them in order for that piece of code to work. So you go and you say, I want this library. And this library depends on 3 other dependencies, and each of those have 5 other dependencies, and then NPM goes and resolves all that stuff, pulls down everything locally, and puts it in a specific folder structure. And so I think that's what Todd was talking to earlier, or you were talking to earlier, about the scripts folder, right? So NuGet does the same exact thing. It goes and it was designed to go bring assemblies, .NET assemblies down and pull them down and put them into various folders and then add the references to them. But then they added content. Well, why don't we just put JavaScript in there too? And so NuGet can do this stuff, right? You can have NuGet packages like Bootstrap or jQuery or Angular, and you can have a NuGet package that's an Angular NuGet package that says I depend on jQuery, and it can go and bring them all down, and it's going to go and bring them, and it's going to put them in the scripts folder, and it's going to follow some convention. With NPM, it's going to download them, it's going to put them in the NPM modules folder, and it's going to follow a similar convention. And so honestly, I mentioned earlier, I do agree with the sentiment of I'd like to be able to control where my scripts are placed. But frankly, with NPM or even
didn't solve that problem, right?
Yeah, it does. It doesn't solve that problem. It's literally the same exact thing, right?
So there's another package manager in there, and that's Bower.
Yeah.
And Bower is trying to. I think it's a pivot on that very same problem. I guess probably the simple way to look at it is for JavaScript developers that were outside the Microsoft world, is it was for client library retrieval directly from a Git repository, most likely GitHub, right, Jess?
Right. So Node Package Manager is to bring down Node packages. Node being primarily a server-side JavaScript development environment, right? So in other words, these packages that were created were server-side packages, and it again has direct correlations between NuGet, right? So NuGet it was initially created to deliver assemblies, and assemblies being server-side packages. But then they said, hey, why don't we throw some client-side stuff in there too, some JavaScript, some CSS, and npm had the same exact thing, except npm was all just JavaScript. It was server-side JavaScript, client-side JavaScript. Some of the packages were both. They were literally server-side and client-side JavaScript. But then Bower came along and said, let's have this a little bit clearer delineation to say, okay, this is the stuff that's going on the client, right? This is client-side packages, CSS, JavaScript, whatever, and then you can go ahead and just get those and bring them down.
So that's like jQuery Bootstrap.
Yeah.
Right. Angular.
Yep.
Where they're just text files that are going to be they're static files that are going to be served for a Microsoft developer in your www root.
Yep. Yep.
But whereas if again we're getting a little outside of the Microsoft world, so then the delineation would be, well, I would use npm for the server side pieces if I were a Node developer, because they're not going to be static files served. They're not binaries because it's JavaScript, but they are libraries that are helping me do my server-side job. Is that correct? Like it's a minifier, a bundler, maybe other things.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're on the server, you don't necessarily care so much about minification and everything because you're not pushing it down to the client. You also don't necessarily care about the fact that all of these things are in a Node modules folder. Because, and in fact, that can be a good thing, because when you go to reference these things at runtime dynamically on the server, when you go to find them and locate them, you can leverage that that convention, that folder convention, to go and find packages. And so, the difference being on the server, all the files are there if you need them, whether or not you need them or not, and you can load them on demand. But on the client, you need to send them down first, right? And so you need to be a little more diligent about that, and you care a lot more about the folders and bundling and minification and everything.
Yeah, when I was playing around with Bower, I actually, and this is, we're not going to talk about some of other packages that you might use for task management like Grunt or Gulp tonight, but I actually played around with Bower's support to bring a package file down and then move it to a specific location. So what I was doing there is I was trying to get Bower to be this all-in-one tool that says, okay, bring down jQuery, bring down a particular version, or actually one thing we can talk about is its wildcarding support, right? So you can say in Bower that, I want this version of jQuery, but I'm okay that if it's this major, minor, and anything after that, just keep upgrading, and then put it in this spot because this is where I want it to be served from.
Yeah.
And so now this is the interesting thing. I'm sure that now someone like Todd's customers have a ton of questions now that there's 3 package managers. So, if you're one of Todd's customers, one of your customers, Todd, and you're saying, okay, what are some of the questions that come to mind, whether they're developing a web app or even the other kinds of apps that you're going to be using in Visual Studio 2015?
Yeah. So, while you guys were talking, a couple of things came to mind. I just want to clarify something from my own sense. Isn't Bower an NPM package? That's how I understood it to be. It actually is a Node package.
Yes. Yeah. So in addition to server-side JavaScript code snippets, I keep calling them snippets. I mean, these can be hundreds or thousands of lines of JavaScript. But, JavaScript files. They just get components. Yeah, they're just getting JavaScript files from one place to another is essentially what's happening. But in addition to server-side JavaScript code, client-side JavaScript code, maybe some CSS here and there, it also has tools, full-fledged tools that run in the Node environment, meaning you can actually execute them from the command line. They're not ever necessarily intended to run on a web server or something like these. Were fully intended for development purposes only, design time, development time for developers, and Bower is one of those tools. These other ones that you mentioned that we're not going to really get into, but you mentioned the task runners, Grunt and Gulp and all these things. Those are all Node tools, so command line Node tools that are written in JavaScript and delivered through NPM.
Yeah. Yes, right. And so what's interesting is I think a very common tweet you'll see is, hey, I want to get jQuery. What should I use? Use Bower. How do I get Bower? Use NPM. How do I get
What's
NPM?
NPM?
And eventually someone will say it's package managers all the way down.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
So
back to your question. Yeah. So a couple different things. One is, I think for a lot of developers, they're not using Node today, right? If I'm in Visual Studio 2013, unless I am a web developer and I'm like, hey, I know I want to use Global Grunt, and I've actually used some of the remote debugging tools for mobile stuff that are Node packages, I might not even have Node installed. And now the first thing I think of is, cool, this is good. I like this. I like where this is going. This is something that's going to be interesting. It's almost like, all right, now it's worthwhile for me to have to learn this kind of stuff because it's building the Visual Studio. But then I start thinking, customers had challenges just making NuGet work on their servers or getting NuGet installed or using it. This seems like now they need Node. So is there going to be oh, wait a minute, what's Node? We can't have Node. That's JavaScript. That goes in the client. That doesn't get installed on our build server or anything else.
Well, here's the amazing thing. If you install Visual Studio 2015, you have Node.
Which is kind of interesting. I mean, that's good, right? I mean, it makes it a whole lot easier. I have heard, though, it's a slightly different version than Node, or it's the NPM or something. There is a difference if you already have Node versus installing it fresh with just Visual Studio.
It is a it's a lighter weight version. I don't even know how to classify it. I know that I've gone into that and I've tried to use some of the more advanced functionality, and it's just not there. So it's not a full-fledged version, but it's enough to go and download Node packages and run them.
Yeah. So to me, that is the first question. Is that the second thing is, and I've actually started talking to customers about using Gulp and Grunt just in 2013. So by being able to have it in the box in 2015, they're a little more interested now in wanting to learn that and try to take advantage of that. But like you said, it introduces this other problem, which is, well, now I need Node on the server. And then the question becomes, well, can I still just use NuGet? Or do I have to? I mean, is this an opt-in or is it being kind of forced?
Right.
For me personally, another question I have is, I know in the JavaScript world, me and the developers I work with all the time, we call it the framework of the week. Is Bower the thing right now that Microsoft is adopting, but a year from now there's going to be something else?
Personally, I think Bower's on the way out. I think it's on the way out. So one of the big problems with NPM, which I think still is a problem, but they've at least identified it. I think they're working on it and fixing it. It might actually be fixed now. But it came from the Linux world. It came from the POSIX world, right, where you could have really long file names, file paths. And then in Windows, it just didn't port. And so the way that it works, its internal folder structure kind of hierarchically brings packages under packages under packages under packages, so you can get these insanely long file path names. And it sounds like it shouldn't be an issue, but it can be a really big issue on Windows specifically. And I saw one of the forum posts about it, or the GitHub issue, or whatever, and the response from the NPM team is like, well, don't use Windows.
That solves the problem every time.
Helpful. Yeah. But now I think they actually did. They have or they're going to solve that problem with NPM. So that was one of the biggest problems. And then the other thing was it just seemed arbitrary to say, let me restart over, right? One of the other problems is that even Bower was created, and they started putting packages into a separate package management system, i.e. Bower, and that ecosystem started to grow. But at the same time, most, if not all, of those same packages were still available in NPM. So you effectively had a competing package management system that there was no real perceived value. Like, I still to this day couldn't say, why would you choose Bower over NPM?
Well, I have a thought on that, and it's that, and here's where I just maybe don't know enough about NPM, is that isn't the value proposition of Bower that since it relies on a Git repository and tags, that just by merely committing my change to jQuery and tagging it, that I've done all I need to do. It's you hear this mantra from me a lot on the show, right? Frictionless development. This is all I need to do. There's no other package management to do, and I don't know that that's quite true for NPM, although the level of friction might be minuscule compared to saying, hey, I want to now make this a NuGet package.
NPM has two options. NPM, you can take the standard NuGet-like approach where you can build a package, a zip file, and actually send that up, and that's the thing that gets distributed. Or you can have a pointer to a GitHub or a Git repository tag.
So it could be redundant then.
Yes.
Well, it could be redundant. Yeah. Okay.
It's all redundant as far as I'm concerned, and so that's why as they fix all these issues with NPM and Windows and everything, and they make it more accessible, I just honestly don't see the need for Bower. I frankly do not understand. I would love somebody to come on this show and talk about why they love Bower so much more and why it's such a better alternative than NPM, but I'm just not seeing it.
I gave you my one reason.
I'm really happy.
Yeah, I gave you the reason that I had thought of, and that was pretty much it. So, to Todd's point, I think you make a great point, is that so now what Microsoft has chosen to do in the Visual Studio 2015 timeframe is begin to embrace tools that are not familiar to Microsoft developers but are more familiar to the outside world. And I think, in my opinion, trying to prevent a Microsoft bubble from completely closing, I think we would all agree a Microsoft bubble had not only formed, it was actually gaining in strength, but to keep it from completely closing off, let's at least, let's say, hey, we're going to embrace tools that the rest of the web developers are using, and what happens when they're not using them in 2016, the calendar year 2016, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that, I was going to say, I think that for the customers I work with, I primarily do web development and some Cordova and still some WPF development here and there, is that the web just moves so fast, and that's, to me, is the challenge. Like I said, when I first saw this in Visual Studio, which I guess is maybe earlier this year or maybe longer than that, when ASP.NET 5 started to come to fruition, it's like, cool, this is good. This seems like this is going to add cadence to wanting to actually use this. But then I started thinking, there's Gulp and Grunt now. In 6 months from now, if there's something else, how do people decide? What do they need to do?
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, just thinking about what you guys are discussing, it sounds like there is no answer, and I think that scares a lot of developers. Because I'm used to Visual Studio making the answer. If Visual Studio does X, that's the answer.
Right.
And I know for me personally, a lot of times it's frictionless, like you talked about, Chris. It's easier if Visual Studio does it in a box. I have so little time to help my customers. I want to focus on what really provides the value versus, are we going to use Global Grunt? Pick one, learn it, master it, get your stuff deployed. So I think there's a fear factor that if ASP.NET 5 comes out sometime early next year, and all of a sudden there's rumblings about Bower's not going to be the thing, all of a sudden developers are going to be like, well, I don't even want to learn it. Can I just use NuGet? Or can I? Sure. Because I would imagine NuGet still works to a certain degree.
Yes. Right.
Which is my other question. When I go to 2015, is NuGet there? Is it not working now? Is it going to work in some cases? In other cases, it doesn't work? How am I know what's happening?
Yeah, so my own use, combined with the official stories that I have heard, the official explanations, are that, yes, you still continue to use NuGet, and especially if you're not doing a web project, you're going to use NuGet, because those projects could care nothing about Bower and NPM or anything like that.
That's no-brainer. If you're doing assemblies, .NET assemblies, use NuGet.
Right. Binaries are still going to be NuGet, so Entity Framework. You're building a Windows Phone application, and you want Entity Framework. Okay. You're building a WPF application. You want Entity Framework. Okay. You're building a WPF application. You want JSON support. You want JSON.NET. Okay. You use NuGet. Those are all NuGet. And that the guidance from ASP.NET folks was that for your client-side libraries, you're going to use Bower. Like that's how they felt it was going to work. And yet, the reason why they had NPM support was because they're also seeing a future of toolchain being Grunt and Gulp. And when we talk about JavaScript toolchaining, I'm sure we'll be interested in talking about that. So, for a ASP.NET project, though, for the question of going forward, will I still be able to use NuGet to get jQuery? Now, the answer is supposed to be yes. That yes, they will still put in the work to get a jQuery package, an Angular package, a Bootstrap package into NuGet for the folks that kind of want to stay in that world, but to also show that there is some thinking about the new world. Mads Christensen released an extension to support in the Task Runner Explorer to support the npm scripts tag. So, you know, I feel like where they're headed is this world where they're going to say, as the platforms that other people use get dropped away and new things become popular, maybe we'll add to it out of band. Maybe we'll add to it by extension.
Yeah, I think there are two sides to this. The first is that this is a generic tool that's in Visual Studio, right? It's called Task Runner Explorer for a reason. It allows you to interact with your task runner, whatever that is, or whatever it may be 5 years from now. And so that gives you flexibility in both sides of the spectrum, both regards, right? So when the new task manager comes out, all you need is support for it, another little extension or plugin to get it to integrate into Task Runner Explorer, which should be pretty simple. But then it's also, to your point, Todd, of hesitance of which one to choose, or what if it changes? What if a hot new one comes out? If a hot new one comes out and the ones you're using right now still works, why would you change? Right? That's a different conversation altogether. The tooling itself in Visual Studio and on the command line, for that matter, will support either one. It'll support you continuing on with the current version that you're using, the current tool and tool chain that you're using, and it will also support the hot newness when it comes out.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I've seen with NuGet, and it may be only certain cases, but I'm pretty sure it's still true in 2013, is when I go and create a new MVC project, it gives me jQuery and Bootstrap, but it gives me a version that's older. It's not the full live latest version. And I was always understanding, because the way Microsoft positioned when they put jQuery in the box was there was a certain version they deemed was fully supported, so that's the version they got. And I know that it kind of drives me nuts. It's like, why aren't people adopting the latest thing? I still get back to this idea that if Microsoft is going to say Bower is the way to do X, people are going to focus on that. It's what Visual Studio gave me out of the box.
Right.
To go beyond that or to switch it, there's going to be this friction. And frankly, as a developer or an enterprise developer, what task runner you use is this a decision you kind of make in the beginning and then you leave it alone. So your point was right, Jess. If it still works, you do it. The problem is, every time a new Visual Studio version comes out, is it going to introduce something else? And I think that's what a lot of developers are apprehensive. To me, I love it. I love the idea of all this new stuff to learn and then utilize. And particularly, you said if we work in Cordova, there's a whole other set of things you have to deal with that Visual Studio 2015 solves much better. But for the average developer, they're just getting to NuGet now. And now all of a sudden it feels like NuGet's taken away.
The only valid fear there is the next version of Visual Studio going to break what I'm using today? I'm saying the Task Runner Explorer says, no, we'll support whatever, right?
So Task Runner Explorer, should we explain a little bit more about what that is? There's probably plenty of folks who don't even know what that is, even if they have Visual Studio 2015.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about it a lot, but is that in the scope of package management?
Well, I mean, not really, because it's more to run grunt and gulp tasks, right? And even these npm scripts. But I think maybe when it comes to Bower, is there a chance here that Microsoft will single-handedly save Bower, because so many developers are going to be out there hitting file new project for ASP.NET 5, and for the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to rely on Bower being their package retrieval for the version of jQuery from 2015, even though the year is now 2022, and you are still supporting this web application. Is that going to happen?
Yeah, and thinking web terms, who even knows if jQuery is relevant by then? People are still getting it to Bower.
Hey, jQuery is a dinosaur, right? And it's still relevant.
I think the answer is yes. If people tend to adopt the Visual Studio version for a pretty long cycle, right? People aren't upgrading every year. They like to keep it on a 2 to 3 year cycle. So yeah, if 2015 does it this way, they're going to do it whatever comes out of the box.
Yeah, so just
it's interesting that we're talking about NPM and all this stuff, but I think for most Microsoft developers, these are foreign concepts. They're not used to this. They're not live in the web world.
Right.
They're not doing their development outside of Visual Studio. They're not going to Sublime or even Notepad++. It's what's in the Visual Studio box. So,
I think I've never even heard of this stuff.
Yeah, I think when you started out, you said that NuGet came around 2010. I keep coming back to the idea that for a lot of developers, they're just now getting to using NuGet or really embracing it.
Well, actually, to that, I'd argue that point. I think that's surprisingly and pleasantly surprisingly, the NuGet adoption has seemed to be really good. So I have these days I don't really run into a room where there's a developer who doesn't really know about NuGet, mostly because it is out of the box and it is such an integral part to the templates, and it's in all of the tutorials and everything. But I mean, as you open up with Chris, I've been giving presentations, local user group and stuff, basically since NuGet came out. And I always open with the same question: how many of you have heard of NuGet? Right? How many of you have used NuGet? And in the beginning, understandably, no hands went up. That's why we're in this talk. And then as I keep giving similar talks over the years, the last talk that I gave, every single developer raised their hand. Yes, I know NuGet. I've heard of NuGet. I use NuGet on a regular basis. And so now the topic of the talk, what they're interested in hearing is, how can I really leverage NuGet to do great things, right? What's the best way to and so that's the conversation has gone from what is NuGet to what is the best way to use NuGet, kind of like what we're talking about right here.
Right. So the real question that I have is, are you then telling these same developers, are you having them raise their hand if they're still clicking enable NuGet package restore in Visual Studio? Because even though that option is still there, you should have stopped a few years ago, and we should probably put a link to the NuGet documentation that tells you how to rip it out of your old projects, right? I run into this at work in my source control. I just Friday, I took a project out of source control, and when it wouldn't build correctly, when it wouldn't F5 correctly because it was in this weird fuzzy state of having clicked enable NuGet package restore, sure enough, I closed the project down, opened it up in a text editor, the CS proj file, and ripped out that piece of the project so that I could go back to F5 ability, which is super important to me. And I don't think a lot of developers know about that change.
Well, we can put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
do our part.
Now I'm passionate about it. Everybody, stop using enable package store.
So it's funny because I even didn't know that. It makes sense, but because I've actually ran the case probably within the last 6 months, 3 or 4 times, having one developer had a slightly different version of MVC, like a 4.11 something other, and every time he ended up checking something in, everything got messed up, and the solution was restore package, and then that fixed it.
Right.
And it's weird because we actually removed removed that version of MVC on his box and put the right version, and it still was confused.
Right. It's a horrible thing because what happened is several versions ago of the IDE, they thought, hey, let's create this NuGet package restore functionality, and it's so tempting to you as a developer because you right-click on the solution and it says enable NuGet package restore. Who wouldn't want to use that? That's got to be the right thing to do. But the NuGet team has migrated away from that to something which they call, confusingly enough, automatic package restore. and the way that you enable that is simply by not doing the other thing. And then it just works, right? So we have going forward this new world where NuGet is still going to be relevant because even if you're a web developer, you're probably going to want Entity Framework 6
or MVC 6 or whatever.
You might want well, that's the other thing is that just because the project JSON file lets you use NuGet through typing, you can still go to NuGet Package Manager and get MVC dependencies for MVC 6. But with these other two package managers coming into the project templates, what are developers going to think? What have they told you if you talk to them about this?
That's a good question. So the only real customer I talked about 2015, we talked a little more about what MVC was doing and less about the package management stuff. I was pushing them more to the idea that you need to start thinking about Gulp and Grunt today because it's going to be in the box in Video 2 2015, not to use what MVC does today for notifications and stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
So the only question I really got was, is this different than NuGet? Is it better than NuGet? And I had to fight to get NuGet on my server to get access for NuGet packages to work remotely. Now I need Node. That's not a supported thing in our enterprise.
So, Jess, what should people do? What do you think is the right thing for them to do? if you're a Visual Studio developer, and forget 2015, what if you're a Visual Studio 2013 developer, or even if you're going to write a new ASP.NET 4.6 project, like you are not going after the ASP.NET 5 world. What do you think is the right thing for them to do? What do you think is going to be the most beneficial for them?
I think these tools that are available in NPM are typically the best in breed. And so if you can leverage them, they are as relevant to you today in your ASP.NET 4 project as well as your ASP.NET 5 project, where you are, quote, strongly encouraged, right? In other words, practically forced, not literally forced. You can use other things, but all of the defaults, all the templates really push you to these new tools because they are the best in breed. They're the de facto standard. There's no reason that you can't start leveraging them in your projects today. And so I would really encourage every developer, regardless of whether you're on 2015, Visual Studio 2015, or ASP.NET 5, or earlier, to go out and look at these tools, see how they are relevant to you, see how you might start using them in your immediate work, like literally tomorrow, right? So you can bundle CSS, minify, or bundle JavaScript and CSS, minify, compile your TypeScript code, and all of the
compile JavaScript.
TypeScript. That sounds like another show.
Yes.
I told you I'd sneak it in.
Yes. That's 3 times. That's more.
All this great web stuff is just right there, and it's the reason that these tools are in this package management system is because this is a JavaScript package management system, and it's for web, right? It's the best in breed web development tool. So
okay, so when someone in your organization you've given them the task to start a new project, and there's NPM and Bower, and they go to start using Bower, what's your guidance going to be?
My guidance is the same regardless of any technology or any language or whatever. It is follow the team's standard, follow the team's convention. I literally just had this conversation with one of my guys the other day where I said, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and then I had to kind of step back and say, let me rephrase. What you did was correct because you followed the team standard, the convention. I'm just saying that I think I'm starting to rethink this convention. I think this convention might be wrong. We might want to do this a little bit differently, right? And so I would say, don't use NPM and Bower together to get your client-side packages. So you as a team have to decide, what are we using? Are we using client? Are we using Bower? Are we using NPM? Are we using NuGet? It's still a perfectly legitimate option. Yes, there's plenty of reasons that you might want to choose NPM or Bower over NuGet, but NuGet is still a legitimate option.
You're right that there are legitimate options and that the team should pick one and that they should stick with it. But what do you want to do?
Oh, me today, I'm looking at NPM. So as I mentioned earlier, as far as I'm concerned, Bower is, it's on its way out. It's just not really a valid. That's not true. I don't mean to say it's not a valid system, but NPM gives you all of the functionality that Bower gives you. In other words, you can go and you can get client-side libraries. All of the client-side libraries that are in Bower are also in NPM. You can go and get them. And NPM is the only tool that you need to install, the only one that you need to learn how to work with. And
so you're saying you're going to open a new project, you're going to go into the package.json, you're going to take Bower out, and that'll be the end of it for you. You'll be a happy ASP.NET 5 developer when that ships.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Well, no, look, I mean, I think you're right that definitely teams have to make the decision, but part of why I hope people are listening to us is because they're going to want to hear what Jess Chadwick thinks, and that was Jess Chadwick's official guidance. I'm sure he's going to smile for the camera now and say, great, I've just stuck that on Jess, and from till the end of time, Jess is going to be known as the anti-Bower. Todd, what do you think?
So, a couple different things. One is, what I've been telling people is, even though Visual Studio supports Gulp and Grunt, learn it outside of Visual Studio. Actually understand how this was built, and not in the Microsoft mindset, in the web developer mindset. Then once you figure out how it works and things, then you can take advantage of Visual Studio. Let the tool make it your job easier, but not as a replacement for actually learning how it works. As far as the .bower stuff, my biggest exposure to this is actually working with the Google Polymorph project, cool. Which is a set of web component framework and things, and they make heavy use of Bower. Because you have to really, to work with Polymorph, you need to go get lots of different web component packages, and Bower seems to be the default approach they take. So to Jess's question is, I actually kind of agree with him on principle that it'd be nice if there was just one thing to deal with instead of two or three different ones. But it seems like, at least in the projects I've seen, web projects, open source web projects, a lot of them have adopted Bower. So it seems like there seems to be some credibility added to that. Me personally, I'm probably going to look at both and figure out really what I want to recommend to customers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just to qualify what I said earlier when I said
that was unfair. Okay, I was being unfair.
Anything I've been trying to do with Bower is also available in NPM. Polymer is a great example of something that does not fall under that, right? So as you were talking, I was validating that. I was doing some fact checking. Yeah, and in fact, at least from a couple Stack Overflow articles, it looks like that's true. Like, it's just you simply can install Polymer packages from NPM. So to kind of support my claim earlier, I just feel like if Bower is going to die, it's not going to die one day. It's going to decline, and people are going to move over to, it's going to move over to NPM, and then NPM will start supporting these things. And so my fundamental assertion earlier was that NPM offers the same functionality as Bower, and so it's kind of duplicating. It's kind of needlessly competing. And I don't really understand why there is that competition, why there's both of them when NPM is perfectly fine. And so as far as I'm concerned, it's a simple case of these package maintainers that are currently in Bower just need to put it in NPM as well. I don't really see a big anything stopping that from happening.
Yep. No, I understand. And so I guess from my point of view, it's there's definitely Node has taken the world by storm. And once NPM kind of got up and running, it seemed that everybody was creating packages so that you could pull in both server-side code to help you with your Node.js server work, but even the client-side code, and package managers on top of package managers kind of makes us in the .NET world laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
But for us .NET developers, we're going to have valid options going forward. I think it's very important to say that NuGet is not going away. NuGet is not dying. NuGet is still considered to be the way to get assemblies, .NET DLLs. So there's your, I keep going back to Entity Framework or JSON.NET, but those are your examples there. And on the client side, while I think there's going to be guidance to say, hey, use Bower for this, it's going to be perfectly valid, from what I understand, to go get jQuery, Bootstrap, and Angular from NuGet if that's what you really want to do. And what it probably means is we're going to need a show on task runners, because no matter what, we're starting to creep into that realm of how you manage this with Grunt or Gulp, or something I'm kind of interested in now, just NPM scripts. And that support is coming too. So, it's been pretty interesting. I think as usual, we're probably have surprised ourselves that we can spend quite a bit of time talking about something like package management, but I hope it's been good for everybody to learn that there's a lot of nuance to this, right? There was a lot more to it than just this is a better way to add a reference.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we use this, and I've been doing this for years. We actually use this all the way up to kind of bundling and deploying our applications, or even integrating with other teams. So at work, we had a big project where we had one central application and a handful of teams, 4 or 5 different teams, contributing components to that application, UI components, but components nonetheless. And the way that we managed all of that, and we managed that interaction and that collaboration, was that each of those contributing teams were contributing NuGet packages. They were bundling all of their components into NuGet packages, and then that central application, all they had to do, they came in every morning, they had NuGet update, right? Give me an update all of my packages, and they were just there. To your earlier point, Todd, about setting up a NuGet server, it's ridiculously simple. It can be as simple as literally just putting files into a UNC path, a file share somewhere. That has plenty of downsides, but it can be that simple. That's how you can get started if you just want to start playing with it. And then the next step up is literally just file a new web project and install the NuGet server package, and point that at a file share, and then that gives you kind of caching and everything that makes it more performant.
I never knew about that package. That's cool.
It is literally as simple as that. Those are
Yeah.
your two options that you can get off the ground and running.
Yeah. I knew about other things like the ProGet server and MyGet,
Yeah.
but
You
I
don't
hadn't
even need to
heard.
do any of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. What do you know?
Very easily set up a NuGet server internally, like literally within a number of minutes.
That's good to know, because when I looked at it about a year and a half ago, that I didn't come across anything like that. So it's good to know that there is a simpler way to do it.
See, that's why we invited Jess. Do you get NuGet? And I learned something. That's awesome. I'm thrilled. This has made my night.
So my final thought is this is no matter what we're talking about, what package type or whatever you're talking about, NPM or Bower or NuGet, is package management's here to stay. This is a part of your world now. You need to understand why it exists and figure out what makes sense for you as your development team, what tools you want to use. But the idea of copying or downloading assemblies or JavaScript files manually and then adding them yourself, that's not the world you want to live in anymore. You want to take advantage of these tools to make your life easier.
Yeah, and we don't like committing those things to source control.
Yes, and ideally, yes. You don't want to ever check anything in.
That is something the three of us do not like. I agree.
I guarantee all of us probably have some version of jQuery or several versions of jQuery checked into our source control.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well,
all right, cool. Well, that sounds like a show.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a good show.
So everybody out there, thanks for spending time with us. We hope that you got a lot of value out of listening to this discussion. And if you did, please let other people know by submitting a review on iTunes and letting your friends know. It's the word of mouth that's going to help us grow and help keep this thing going. Also, please write us. Let us know what you'd like to hear us discuss on the show. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what you think about the things that you're talking about. So please feel free to leave a comment on the website, staticvoidpodcast.com, staticvoidpodcast.com, or feel free to send us an email to comments@staticvoidpodcast.com. So Todd, Chris, thanks for the chat.
Yep.
Yes, awesome.
Catch you all next time.
Catch you next time.
All you out there, we'll talk to you next time on the Static Void Podcast. Bam! That's how you do a show.
That's pretty good.
That was fucking sweet. Under an hour, and I'm going to go chop out at least 5 minutes of
I
just
think there's some stuff that could go.
me fucking
Did
babbling.
I break up, guys? Because I actually stumbled with my words at the same time.
We all broke up. I think we all broke up.
Oh, you
Chris
got really
was the
bad in the
best.
middle.
Yeah, Chris was the best of us, but even he broke up a little bit.
Well, I hope that
It's probably
locally.
a popular night for.
I'm hoping
hangouts.
locally it was nice. So.
Yeah, no, locally it'll be fine.
And then there was definitely some places where I wasn't necessarily trying to get you guys off. I thought maybe you might be done. So you might find those on my stream for sure, Jess, where I'm like, oh, wait.
No, it's fine. Those are the notes that I take.
Okay, cool. Sounds like you're...
I call it overtalk. I literally, because you can see it, right? When you line up the sound, you can see when there are 3 lines of... That's all 3 of us talking at the same time. That's not going to go well. So I call it out, and I just go and mute one of us or 2 of us. Most of mine... You want to hear my show notes? 5:30, Todd cuts out. That was just when we
right,
did
I jumped in.
again,
It might not have needed to. And when it happened again, I thought, I think this is going to be fine.
Yeah. 8 minutes, Todd talks for a while.
Thanks.
11 minutes, Todd cuts out again. 20 minutes, Jess babbles. 27:30, Jess restarts over, says it over again. 30:40, over talk. That's when we all kind of talk over each other. 30:55, Todd stumbling. 32:20, Todd talking over Chris. 35:30, Jess stumbles. 37 minutes, Jess asks if this is on topic.
Yeah, that's okay. I know that section.
Yeah. Over talk, Jess stumbles and repeats a lot. Jess talks a lot. Jess talks a lot. Those are my notes.
Oh, you didn't throw in the note for Chris calls you the anti-Bauer?
No, that's fine. That'll make it.
I thought it was I was trying to, as I was thinking of it, I said, I want to be careful. Because obviously the show has we want to be professional, but on the other hand, maybe a little levity. I mean, you're saying don't use it. And it was funny because you were trying, you're not wrong. You weren't wrong, but you were trying to say well, do what's best for your team. Bullshit. This is the Static Void Podcast. We're here to tell you what you should do. And if you don't like it, send us a comment and tell us how stupid we are.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Then maybe we
I
can
know.
read that comment and say, like, someone told us you guys totally missed out on Bower. You're dumb,
Yeah,
and Bower
we
is here to stay.
did. Oh man.
And then we could say, and then we could bring it up on the show and say, somebody told us that this is some special thing about Bower. It also has special anti-kryptonite powers. And, oh my god, I never knew that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, listener, for enhancing the conversation.
And we're gonna send you nothing because we don't have that going. We're not.
Or do we?
We. Uh-oh. Jess has a bunch of mugs made up already, right?
Why do you think I asked for your addresses?
Yes, we still haven't received anything yet.
I haven't sent anything yet.
Okay.
Or have I?
No, you haven't.
I mean, in regards to levity, I think that you're calling me out that was, in the get thing when I said I only use 3 commands and you called me out on it. That was like the best part of the show.
Like, so that was 7. But you're right. It's only 3 commands you need to learn. You didn't even say get fetch. You're like, oh, it's super simple, man. You just need get pull, get push, and I forget what else you said.
I don't fetch. I pull.
You have to fetch before you pull.
No, you don't. What are you talking about?
You have to
pull.
because you want to.
Absolutely.
You might not want to pull. You might want fetch and then be like, oh, dude, I don't want that crap.
You absolutely do not. You can optionally fetch before you pull if you want to play it safe, but I don't play it safe. I am.
That's what I mean. It's just playing it safe.
No, I don't do that.
You're right though that most of the tools just sync. Most of the tools are like whatever.
Yeah.
Get that step out of here.
Real men pull.
No, I'm pretty sure that's probably like, crazy men just, what is it, push -- force to be like, my version is right. Those commits are wrong.
No, it's just arrogant men.
So Jess.
Yeah.
Let me find some dead air in here and try and do.
I was looking at some get jokes. Because when we were texting about it, I wanted to throw in a get joke and take credit for it and pretend I'm funny when I really got it from someone else. The best one was the problem with get jokes is that everyone has their own version.
Oh, that's good. That's a good way to introduce a Git talk.
Yeah, right?
You should do a Git talk next year. Someone should.
I fully intend to.
Oh, so here, guess what happened? Remember I was telling you about sitting next to Bill and Rob, and
yes,
and they hadn't really used Git, and so in the course of that, because Bill's always on the lookout for topics. He's like, "That's it, hands-on lab and Git, and you're gonna lead, and you're gonna help us out with it," which is fine. I think a lot of developers need it. So the 2 talks that, believe it or not, I may have in the can in the next couple months are Git, which I can't believe, and ES6, which I also can't believe.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to talk to people about ES6.
Just do TypeScript. There's no point in talking about ES6.
There's no TypeScript.
You guys are all. It's not ES6 anymore.
I love classes are so good. I love them.
2015, man.
I love you, classes.
I'm gonna do a talk on TypeScript, and I'm gonna do 40 minutes all on ES6, and at the end I'll be like, I've been showing you TypeScript this whole time, bitches. I'm out.
Is there types in ES6?
I'm gonna throw a type in there and be like, there's TypeScript.
Still solve the wrong problem.
But the thing is that's the feature of ES6 I'm not going to use.
Then you're missing out.
What
you can
Visual Studio? What about Distance Sublime?
Convert the wave to mono. You can just send me the mono version. We don't need to have to.
That's what I
literally just cuts it in half.
That's what I've been doing.
I know you've been doing it. I just was gonna save Todd some face just to make it general. I know.
I believe you told me the stereo at first.
I did. I absolutely did.
I think at one point we said mono, and I thought I had picked mono, but maybe I didn't.
Yeah. That was my previous instruction that Chris has been ignoring this whole time.
I was just like, whatever. He'll come to the light.
And then
today it'll be Audacity. Next it'll be classes.
Classes are one thing. It's putting types in.
Chris led the charge on the teen convention of mono.
I just ignored you.
Is there an NPM package?
Let's not overstate this too much.
So
I was
here's
just
a guess.
like, I
You
was
should
just
create
like,
an npm package that plugs into Audacity. I just hit a button, runs everything, and then uploads the file for me.
Or a NuGet package.
I was like,
well,
I have,
now we're pushing it. I don't think we can get NuGet to work with Audacity here.
yeah, well, because every time Audacity changed, we'd have to wake Jeff Fritz up to make us a new NuGet package. Because it's not frictionless.
Why didn't you say that in the show?
You should He should.
Well, remember I said it.
Well, this video is to record it, so you can send him the video link.
I said it at the panel, and it's totally true.
So
And
does
it's not that I even dislike
you
NuGet.
should have a Twitter feed. Wake up NuGet. Hey Jeff, create the NuGet package.
It's not that I even dislike NuGet. I like it, but I actually, I wonder if I should push Jeff about this a little bit more. I feel like, when is the day going to come when NuGet delivers me assemblies from Git tags? Just deliver me the JSON.NET assembly. Just
Yes. Why not?
TFS Online, I believe, does that. You check your stuff into TFS Online, and it will deploy. It'll compile and do a whole build for you.
Oh no, I mean that. But what I mean is like today, I cannot go to NuGet and say, oh, I want JSON.NET 12.1, and it's like, yeah, I don't actually have that binary. I'm just going to go pull it out of. Nobody made a NuGet package. James Newton King just tagged. I think there's legacy reasons, but
no, the reason that works in NPM is because you're bringing down the source code. There's no difference between
there's no compiled version.
Yeah, there's no compiled version. You're bringing down the source code, so it's just sending different versions of source code around.
So if my code was in TypeScript, though, if my code was in TypeScript in GitHub, I'd have to compile it first.
Then your life would be so much easier. No, you would get it down locally. That's the whole point, is you're sending it around. So that the solution to your issue, Chris, is every NuGet package would be source code, and you would bring it down and you'd compile the whole thing locally.
So that's an interesting question. So if I have TypeScript files, and I'm going to put this on my server, and I do not have Visual Studio installed, how do I compile them?
You need a compiler. Either Visual Studio or NPM. I've been using NPM.
It sounds like a blog post.
There's a command line. What?
How to set up NPM to compile TypeScript on the server.
Or maybe a YouTube video.
Or YouTube video, yes. YouTube video. And a blog post that points to the YouTube video.
I gotta start.
I have a YouTube video that walks you through everything you need to know about TypeScript.
No, that's typed to the language. I meant...
No, including the build chain.
Oh, you do that too?
Oh, yeah. I installed TSC from NPM and everything.
Nice. So you've already done it.
Yes, I have.
So you could have made 4 different videos, though. You could have monetized yourself better.
Well, that's the lynda.com.
Oh no, you can YouTube your monetize your YouTube, man.
Yeah.
No, I know.
The whole 100 people who care about TypeScript.
I'm not sure that's gonna make me rich, although I do kind of want to start putting some of my talks on YouTube, basically.
Yeah, why not? I've been doing that I've been putting my talks on in Vimeo for years now. Meaning 3 of them. The 3 of them that I actually got my shit together to record them.
Yeah, but I feel like I should start doing it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't think anybody's ever watched them, but the idea is awesome.
So where do I save this as mono? Is that before I do the export, or is it somewhere in the export?
Yeah, so select the track and then say stereo track to mono, and then export.
Is that under effects, or where is that?
Tracks.
Oh, tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, stereo track to mono. Gotcha.
Yeah. It should be a right-click option on the track, but it's not.
I tried reducing my noise. I'm going to see if that fixes it. It looked like it's much better.
No, don't do that. Just send me the raw version, and I'll do that. What you can do is record the room noise. So record 20, 30 seconds of you being silent and recording the room noise.
I did that.
And then I can, and if you send me that file, I can do all of that.
Okay.
It's just better, not that I don't trust you, it's just better for me to have all the originals, all the raws, and then I can kind of edit them all together and analyze them together and stuff.
Let me reload it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about cleaning up. I'll take care of it.
I want to remove my breathing.
Just no. In all seriousness, just be concerned about the recording, the live recording quality. After that, I'll take care of everything else, whatever I can. I mean, unless you guys want to start sharing and edit full on editing the shows. What I'm trying to say is it doesn't make sense for each of us to do a little bit. If we want to take turns editing the full show, I'm fully willing to do that, but
please.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more likely that source control is going to see the light of day, because right now it's just really no hope. Got to be honest.
Where's that at? Is it up on Google?
I can put it. Yeah, no, I can put it back. I can put the stitched one back.
Put it up there. I won't have time this week, but maybe next week I'd have some time to take a look at it.
Good. That'd be nice. Yeah.
I'd love to do a TypeScript one because I'll just edit out all the things that are pro TypeScript. I don't know why Jess seems so pro TypeScript, but talk about it.
I don't know why I'm being so liberal by giving my powers away here. I've got the final say of what goes out.
Oh no, I'll put it back up there. You gotta put it up wherever you're putting it. I'm not putting it in freaking iTunes. iTunes, yes, you forgot iTunes. Please recommend this and comment on iTunes.
On iTunes.
No, we don't put our stuff on iTunes. iTunes. We're so freaking cutting edge.
It's our new.
We have an NPM package that uploads it to iTunes.
No, I had a NuGet package, and it
we'll
worked until I installed
2015. We'll have a repository where we check the files into, and then you can create an NPM project that does a build.
Dude, you can automate. I've done it. I do it. You can. It's called chains. In the file menu, you can apply chain and edit chain. You can chain together actions, effects. So I have the podcast chain, which it just goes and compress and dynamic and normalize and reduce noise and all that shit, and it's all automated. It's awesome. It can't make you sound smarter though. You have to go and do that yourself.
Yeah. All right. So I've done the mono thing, and then just do the export, and it should be fine.
Yeah, just export. Still PCM 16. And then if you upload it right now and I get it now, I can edit it tonight and it can be out. This is going to be awesome.
Hey, it's 12:20 and we're actually done.
I know. This is amazing. Maybe I'll get to sleep by 3 a.m.
Next Sunday we're talking about TypeScript.
Are we?
Yes.
Apparently.
Okay. So let's be...
Yeah, that means I'm gonna...
So we don't just argue back and forth. We should come up with a good approach of... You want to talk about, this is what TypeScript is, this is my experiences, and then I could be like, TypeScript is interesting to me, but these are my concerns. Bing, bang, boom, bomb, do. Should developers invest time? Is it really solving any problems?
That's fine.
I guess the question is, what do we hope to solve by having this discussion, other than you and I arguing?
That you finally see the light and start using it. This has nothing to do with our broader audience. This is me trying to convince you to use TypeScript because I know that you love it. You love it. You already love it and you don't even know it.
Well, I can't wait.
Not convinced.
I can't wait because
it's fine.
It sounds actually. I mean, if I already love it, then that's exciting. To think,
why do I need it if I love it?
I should I'll be enlightened. Just 7 days from now, I'll be enlightened.
7 days.
It's like a Zen sort of thing.
Yes.
All right.
The only cool thing about it has my initials. So.
Sure. There's that.
So, well, no, that's in my minus column. That's the.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. It should have been Jess script.
Jess script, yes. I always did say it was a great Todd Sharp, so maybe that's the problem.
Are you gonna have a picture of Anders behind you?
I absolutely.
That little table behind you.
I am, and I'm gonna have a candle lit in front of it and everything.
Can I put a picture of Crockford behind me? I'm just gonna hang him on the wall back there. I will. I'll get a picture of him like doing one of his talks, and it'll just be hanging there. And the thing about it, we don't have to say anything the entire time. Just leave it.
Yeah, right. Just leave it. It's just totally natural.
So I'll get a picture of Don Box. He'll be like, this JavaScript JSON. Just use XML.
Yeah, right. Why aren't we using XML? What happened? XML is perfectly programmable, man.
Jeff, do you want me to zip this thing, or is that too much extra steps for you?
No. Don't worry about it. I mean, it does take off like a third of it, but it's fine.
I think I've already uploaded it.
I'm doing it now.
And I put in the little show notes text file, I put a link to migrating to automatic package restore, and then a couple blog posts. One of them is Hanselman's introducing Bower, but then the other one is specifically a Microsoft blog post from the Visual Studio. Well, it's from MSDN magazine, and Adam Tuliper just wrote a Bower article. So, might be relevant. What the heck? What is this huge Google link? Oh my god. Oh, I see.
What's going on?
I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna do it. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Hold on, I gotta find a particularly stern-looking one.
What?
Not one where he's smiling. He has to be really angry.
Crockford?
Yeah.
I'm amazed that's not his standard one.
Well, unfortunately, the web has a lot of...
He's probably pretty mad because his grand idea to fix the web got broken.
Yeah.
Because the browser's like, we're not going to support browser helpers anymore.
Oh, whoops, that's not it. That's not it. Oh, come on.
Share it with me. New file upload. Episode 8.
I can't upload stuff into Google Effects. I was going to make it my background right now.
Oh, the picture? No, you can't unless I don't see you how to do it. Because I was looking the other day. See if there's a way. Look, you just get the standard stuff.
Damn it.
You can create a new Google Plus plugin.
Oh, I found it.
The Heilsberg plugin.
There's the picture I'm going to use.
Oh, God, WordPress. That's just something scary.
Yes.
WordPress and Crawford. Have you ever looked at this guy's website? I mean, it's like 1995. Oh, scary.
Yeah. It's just information. It just needs to be. I didn't know it needed to be like
stuff is not good.
Yeah. Because he prefers function over form.
Almighty.
The quality of the content.
I'll have to get a pirate cover my eye. Almighty, I'm a purist JavaScript developer. These fancy stuff. I know old I got keen. You new kids with your freaking TypeScript. In my day, we only got strings and number and dates.
Are you a pirate or an old guy?
I'm an old pirate. Back in 1995, when JavaScript was invented, we only needed 3 types. 4, I guess, object. I only needed 4 types. You fancy any person. Reminds me of VB script. File upload. Alright. So seriously though, what is... Oh God. That's a scary picture. What is going to be the outline for TypeScript?
I'm fully fine with. I will state my case in writing, all of the benefits, all laid out there for you to poke holes in.
So this is so the topic of the show is Should I
TypeScript is awesome.
care about TypeScript or about TypeScript? Because these are really two different shows.
What do you mean?
Well, if we're talking about TypeScript, like, oh, TypeScript is this what it does, this is why you want to use it kind of thing, versus I am pro TypeScript, I am anti TypeScript. To me, they're different shows.
I don't see the difference. What do you mean?
Well, we could probably spend an hour just talking about TypeScript and how to use it and those kind of things versus just debating if it's relevant.
Debating.
It's like debating if it's a language war. It's a browser war. I'm pro native JavaScript. You're pro TypeScript. It's like saying one guy's C#, one guy's VB.NET. At the end of the day, if they do the job, it's a really irrelevant religious discussion.
Right. So my arguments are going to be.
You don't give me your arguments. I'm just saying that's what we're going to follow. The idea that you're going to introduce it, you're going to talk about it, you're going to talk about its pros, maybe some cons, and then I'm going to kind of comment as we go through, or we're going to do more of a debate thing.
Yeah, sure. No, and that's what I'm saying. I'm more than willing to kind of lay out my arguments, the benefits, so that we can, I guess, take that order in terms of keeping things on a flow. And obviously we can debate the order and change it around beforehand, but I'm more than willing to stand my stuff up as a straw man that then we can go through and discuss and you can beat down. And
so at this point, is there anything negative to it, in your opinion? Or a drawback? Is there any drawbacks? Negative's not the right word. Or challenges?
Two. The fact that you are adding more code, more bytes, more keystrokes. So that was one of the big things. After we did a pretty big project, at the end I was kind of just going through the code and reviewing it, and it just was a lot more code. Like for the same code that I would write in JavaScript, it was a lot more code.
I'd be curious but you weren't using revealing pattern, though, right? You comparing to that? Because that tends to add a lot more code.
So I guess that is also, you could call that another downside. I haven't really missed it, is that you literally can't really use revealing pattern, or rather classes and revealing pattern and module pattern, all that stuff, they conflict. They don't go together. So you're either going to use module pattern, revealer module pattern, or you're going to use classes and or like common JS modules, AMD modules, or whatever. Which honestly I would argue are better. I feel like the revealing. Never mind. We're going to get into it.
Yes. Well, that's a whole different discussion.
Yes, that is a whole different.
The revealing pattern gives you the ability to gain some level of OOP to a class.
Right, and maybe we should stay away from that. I mean, maybe we could just say what I just said right there and not really qualify it, and just say, that's for another show to get into the benefits of revealing module versus, the straight up prototypical inheritance and all of that stuff. We could just kind of, in other words, we can just talk to those things as if our listeners know them, and if they don't, we can follow up on another show to really get into that stuff in a less opinionated manner.
Yeah. So it would probably be good, at least from a show note point of view. I mean, obviously Angular 2 is going to, you're working with TypeScript. Is there any other projects like that out there, open source projects like that? Just so people have an opportunity. Huh?
I can find them. Yeah.
Like is jQuery going to rewrite itself in TypeScript?
No, dude. No, because John Resick really embraces JavaScript, especially its functional nature. So no.
I'm just using
Oh my God, that is not exclusive.
I'm not saying TypeScript doesn't have that. You know what he would say though is, what do I need it for? Like I get everything I want.
Right.
Just through. I'm not saying you can't do that with TypeScript. It's not exclusive. It's just that would be his response. Is what is it? It doesn't buy me anything.
Yeah.
And look, the guy, he really understands JavaScript, right?
Yeah. Well, if you're embracing the core fundamental dynamic nature of JavaScript, then you're not going to be using types anyway. Like that's the whole point, is going crazy and doing whatever the hell you want on this object and manipulating however you see fit and basically dropping all the rules just because you know the rules.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely going to be one of my arguments, is I've definitely run the cases where I've gotten too carried away making classes. It's added a layer of overhead.
Right.
And then I've also heard cases where people use freaking Breeze, which generated all those classes, and it really created a nightmare.
So I said I had two issues. One of them is that, and the other one is just the additional tooling step. But that's not TypeScript. That's any transpiler. That's any non-native JavaScript, right? So
that's the other question I have is it probably makes sense to in the beginning talk about high level what a transpiler is, and then say we're going to focus on TypeScript in the Microsoft world, but there are others out there you may want to take a look at.
Well, that's a show. Do we want to do that show first?
It's about transpilers?
Transpilers and what they give you, why they're good.
Well, there's more than one purpose. Like TypeScript is transpiling language like CoffeeScript does, which isn't the same thing as Babel, which is trying to bring new features to you now.
Right. TypeScript is both.
Well,
it is. TypeScript is.
Except it brings me the feature that I don't want. So.
No.
I don't think of TypeScript as bringing me ES7. I just don't.
It does. It is. That is part of it. So if you look at the ECMAScript compatibility chart right now, it is like in line. It's in step with Babel. So it gives you all of the ESX, the ES Next features plus typing. So if you don't use, in other words, if you don't use any of the typing features of TypeScript, then you still get access to all of the ES Next features.
So let me ask a quick question.
With Babel. In that case, it's a toss-up of whether you use Babel or TypeScript, right? You're literally not getting anything.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I wanted to be 100% sure. If I just take a regular JavaScript file today, say when I had a revealing pattern in it, and I just .ts it, it compiles, right?
It is TypeScript, yes, yeah.
So in theory, you could just use it as a...
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
As a preprocessor.
Yeah. Just don't add types to anything. And so you're going to get a whole bunch. TypeScript's going to give you a whole bunch of warnings and errors. It'll call them errors, but it'll still output JavaScript and it won't get in your way. So it's going to give you a lot of noise, and you're going to start getting used to ignoring errors, which I would argue is bad, but absolutely right. You can just go ahead and use it as a transpiler with no problem.
So here's a question for you.
Are we recording the show?
No. We're talking about transpilers. Do we have to talk about gulp and grunt first?
No.
Kind of the part of
they're completely separate. But we should talk about transpilers and CSS preprocessors. Right. Basically, you are not writing. They're higher level languages. You're not writing code in what's actually going to run in the browser versus JavaScript and CSS, which would be running directly in the browser.
Which is a lot of. The funny thing is, a lot of my concerns about TypeScript is that's one of the concerns. The second thing is maybe it's being bitten by Silverlight and the Ajax toolkit. I just feel like Microsoft's trying to extend, and in the past they've extended to a point and then dropped it, and went some different direction.
TypeScript?
No. First you had Microsoft Ajax.
No. I mean, that's your concern with TypeScript? Is that Microsoft?
That is one of the concerns, yes. That I'm focusing on the Microsoft world when the web world is so much bigger.
Do you have that concern with Angular?
Well, Angular solves other problems for me, right? It's a framework. It does other things for me. It's just not a language.
No, I'm just saying any code base that is maintained by a giant organization and has a lot of following, regardless of whether it's a transpiler or a production tool, you could say the same thing about. You could be concerned about that major backer dropping.
Yes, which is a concern.
But it's open source, so that doesn't matter. I mean, I don't mean that. If Microsoft walked away from it tomorrow, I'm not saying that it would not be affected at all. I'm just saying theoretically, academically, it doesn't matter because the community would just pick it up and run.
Because remember, I live in a different world. If I was just living in one code base, I'd be much more open to wanting to use TypeScript. The fact that I have to live in 20 a week, it just doesn't drive me to do it.
I'm not sure that is a... Well, first of all, I'm not really sure I actually mean this next statement, but I'm not sure that's a valid argument in this discussion, right? When we're to say that I work with a whole bunch of different clients, So as a developer, should I use TypeScript or not? And then one of your arguments is I work with a whole bunch of different clients and they're not going to understand it. That I don't really think that whole bunch of different clients arguments holds water. Now, that my developers not understanding it or having to learn it, the learning curve or whatever, that's a purely legitimate argument. But you keep going back to I work with a whole bunch of different organizations. I'm not really sure what that brings to the table. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm searching. For this discussion, I probably wouldn't mention it at all. It's more about the idea that there is, from my point of view, Chris lives in his world at his work. You live in your world at your work. I am seeing a much broader spectrum of things.
Yeah.
So, to me, seeing that broader spectrum, it makes me more skeptical. If I was just focusing on one project, I probably would use TypeScript, or at least try it out.
I think it just amplifies what I was trying to say earlier when I was saying I wasn't really, standing behind that statement is what I think that really just amplifies the fundamental problems with it, right? So, in other words, your real concern is that it's hard to get up and running, and what you're saying is times X number of clients that I work with is your real pain point.
For me, there's only one thing. It's the idea that clients that most of them are just getting to JavaScript. And I feel like learning JavaScript is much more valuable than the intermediate step.
It's not exclusive. I would say the first step to learning TypeScript is to learn JavaScript.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I told you. I mean, I'm very honest. I spent years learning Silverlight, spent years learning Ajax Toolkit. Microsoft abandoned both of them. I'm not convinced that this is valuable. Am I planning to use it in a project? Yes. If the right project comes along.
Google and Microsoft are doing everything they can to cement it because they're getting in bed. They're getting in bed together, and this is the end game that I see. Is I see Google and Microsoft saying, okay, everyone loves Angular and TypeScript. Everyone does. Whether or not that's true, we're just going to say everyone does. Therefore, it shall be true. And then they're going to build it into the browsers. They're going to say no more. You don't have to include an Angular file anymore. Just use the shit.
So here's something interesting that I didn't get a chance to validate.
That's what they're going to do, and they're going to say screw Apple, and I think it's a play. I think it's a play, and then when Apple says no, that's stupid, they're going to say oh, well, your browsers are stupid, and then Apple will say that's cool. Everybody writes apps anyway, so who cares? And they might be right. They might be right.
So a big part of the future is object.observe. And I caught somewhere last week that it was taken off WC3.
I think it didn't make it in.
Which is a big piece of actually making it work. Because Chrome was going to put that in their browser.
Making
the way work. Angular was, the performance, benefit. And Angular 2 was supposed to be, hey, if object.observe is here, use it. If not, use it as polyfill. Because that is the big problem. The big problem is still the DOM. We can use whatever language you want or use every framework. The fact that we're still working with the DOM and the way it works and all the overhead, it becomes quite complicated if you build a complex enough application.
Yeah.
Which is the thing I would see us focusing to solve than a new language. So, but yeah, Chris, the minute that Microsoft and the minute Google said, hey, we're dropping our language and now we're going to use TypeScript, that makes me a whole lot more interested.
I think
I'm still not convinced that in a year from now, or years from now, whenever Angular 2 comes out, that they're not going to abandon it or go a different direction. I'm not sold yet they wouldn't go a different direction.
Yeah, I think
today I know JavaScript works because it's in the browser. Introducing something else to me potentially potentially tells people, go and learn this, but it may or may not be a worthwhile investment. Jess's argument is, well, you're still doing JavaScript, so it's a good thing. It's like CoffeeScript, where you do learn CoffeeScript, and all of a sudden it doesn't work for you anymore. Then you have to go back, which is an argument, which is a good plus for it.
Yeah.
Is that the problem with CoffeeScript? Is that because JavaScript is not valid CoffeeScript, whereas TypeScript has that out?
CoffeeScript is like a higher level, like VB to COM kind of thing.
But do you think is that a valuable? So when they stuck that signpost in the ground very early with TypeScript, all JavaScript is valid TypeScript. Do you think, Jess, that was that was a good move.
Absolutely, for me personally. So I'm just drawing this from my personal experience, which maybe you can extrapolate as a common experience. But just for me, I was looking for a better alternative to start taking advantage of JavaScript features that were, approved or spec'd out but not widely implemented, and or just writing better JavaScript, right? Generating better JavaScript. And so I was looking around for alternatives. I found CoffeeScript. The fucking CoffeeScript motto is, it's just JavaScript. It's just not fucking JavaScript. I don't understand why they have that. But anyway, I go,
This sounds like a podcast.
it's just JavaScript, then I can rename my .js to .coffee and compile? Yeah, no. And I compiled it, and it fucking blew up, and I said, forget this. I just so then there's all of this syntax that I have to learn where it's not really buying me anything, and then you have an alternative like TypeScript where it is just JavaScript. All of your knowledge of JavaScript comes over, right? Plus some typing stuff, which is really, really easy to get if you already know C#.
Cool. Well, that's a show.
I know. I'm gonna ship this one. I'm gonna go and grab this from YouTube, and I'm gonna put it down as an audio show.
No, I mean, it should be interesting discussion. So, I'm more just skeptical.
Oh, Chris, I was listening to the Get episode in the car while when Allie was in the back tonight, and she goes, "Dad, that guy sounds like you." I was like, "It is me." And she goes, "What? How did you get on there?" I was like, "This is me and my friends. We're talking." I was like, "I just uploaded it to iTunes." She goes, "Daddy, that is awesome." I was like, "Yeah."
So you have the 6-year-old set, right? Or whatever.
Yeah. You're like, "Yeah, Dad's pretty cool."
Yeah, Allie, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Oh, with that age, they'll still believe it, all right?
Yeah, they believe
About
it.
About 9 or 10, they like, no, you're not.
She goes, "Who are your friends?" I said, "Chris and Todd." And then, you guys were talking. She's like,
Yes.
"Is that Chris?" I was like, "Yeah, that's Chris. You met Chris."
I don't remember.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Hopefully this show was good.
This show was awesome. I mean, we'll see once the full thing is going, but I mean, man, that was awesome. You kept the pace going. We had a great conversation. You jumped in and got your opinions in and everything. It was, dude, I knew it was going to be a great show when we were 20 minutes into it, and we already had like a bunch of solid content. Like, we had already had a valid conversation. Like, we could have stopped the show at 20 minutes and been like, "That's a show. That's awesome."
I'm going to be angry when I hear my audio, probably.
What do you mean? The quality?
It'll be something about my audio I won't like.
Yeah, I know.
I'll hear myself click, or I'll hear a space bar or something.
See, I don't like to hear my own voice, so.
Yeah.
No, the way I've been testing the show is first of all, I get it on my phone because it comes through the podcast app, which is cool.
That works?
And then, yeah, it does work. And then at least I think it. I don't know. Maybe no one else can get it that way, but I have. So then I just listen to it for about probably 10 minutes that way, and then I say, okay, and then I get the headphones and I put them in. Because I know a lot of people, I'm the same way. I'll listen to like .NET Rocks through my headphones, and I never realized how quiet that show is.
Yeah.
Right? It's like beautifully quiet. You don't hear.
I know what they're doing. Yep.
Yeah, and then I listen to me, and I'll hear me pop, or I'll be like, "Oh, this is terrible."
Yeah, I think that's probably more clipping than popping.
Yeah, probably. Or the high dynamic, like I hear the dynamic up high, like get tinny.
Yeah.
Or something, or the probably bouncing all over these walls.
Yeah, all of our echoes are pretty bad.
Yeah, I guess I can get something and like put it around the mic. Would that help? Like if it was I mean, it's got to be that material, right?
Yep. I've read.
You put it in a semicircle behind the mic.
Yeah, you can get them on Amazon for like $10, $20.
Well, that's the material. Then you got to stand it up, right?
Oh, the semicircle thing, the whole like full set kit.
Oh, it was like.
And I've read. I have no idea, but I've read that it's literally all you need. Like, forget about the rest of your room. Just do that, and you're fine.
Kind of makes sense in a way that the sound is going past the mic and then bouncing back.
Yeah. Well, not bouncing at all.
Well, no, but that's what it was doing. Like that's what it's doing now, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, right. And so you're shielding the one place that is not covered by the foam, and then the foam is shielding the rest. So it doesn't bounce from anywhere. It doesn't echo from anywhere. Especially if you've got a great omnidirectional mic like yours, or a directional mic like yours. What's it called? I don't know. Search for like foam screen, sound screen.
Yeah, I see one. It's $128.
Nah.
But I think it's like not what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I saw one. It was like $20 or something. My dad said that you can get them at any like music store, like they're a standard thing.
Okay. Well, if I could get it on Amazon on Prime, I would do it. It'll be
Yeah,
your
you
Wednesday.
can. I'll send you the link. My dad brought me a whole row of sound foam that was left over from when he did his studio.
Is he like I listened to your podcast?
Yeah.
And then he throws you a bunch of sound foam.
Yeah. He's like,
You're like, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, here it is. Oh no, this is the $90 one. There was a cheaper one. You're talking about the Monoprice Pro Audio desktop adjustable acoustic microphone isolation shield.
Something. So Amazon is now informing me that I've been a customer since 1999. That is freaking crazy.
Yeah. That is crazy. What, you freaking customer 12?
I was a pretty early customer.
I'm trying to think. It was probably 98, right, when it came out?
Maybe, because I think I had just started a job. I'm also 13 years on Xbox Live, which is...
Yes, I am official, like, early customer.
I was a beta tester, so...
Even for Xbox, you mean?
That's I was a beta tester for Xbox Live, yeah.
Because I'm like... Was it 2003 it came out?
2002 in November, except I think I had it since September. I didn't... The beta test was December. Super long. But it was cool in beta test days, and I hate to say it, but the reason why it was cool is that everybody was super excited. So everybody was super awesome and friendly. It didn't matter what you were playing. People would be like, "Oh man, I got my butt kicked. This is great." It's not the same now.
Yeah.
But that's just because I suck. I was so disappointed after my Halo performance.
I hate when you go to
What are you done playing, Chris? What is that?
No, dude, that's all I want to do is play Halo. I would go play now except for the fact that I need to sleep.
Do you want to play now?
No, I don't.
Okay, good.
Don't do that.
If you said yes, I'd be on. I'm glad you said no.
Then I'd be up till 4.
Well, I would play until 2, and then I would get off and edit the podcast.
So according to this, Amazon was formed July 5th, 1994.
Oh, wow. Well, remember when their commercials were purely about books? Do you remember the commercial where the guy would be calling someone and he'd be like, "Yeah, is this the University of Miami Stadium?" "Oh, yes, it is." "Well, we're Earth's largest bookstore and we need a place to put all of our 1 million books." And the person on the other would be like, "That's not what we use the stadium for." Remember those commercials?
Yeah. That must have been like 2000, 2001.
I'm so old.
So when did... 2002, yeah, 2002. That must be when I joined. Because I was like a month in. I was like, all right, I'll put my $20 or whatever the hell it was at done.
Yeah. Oh, no, it wasn't a Prime thing. It was just, I think they're just saying that you placed your first order. Is what they're trying to tell me. I did buy books. Oh, yeah, Xbox Live. Yeah. That was me, too. November. I think it launched... See, then the Xbox launched in 2001 on some day, and they launched Xbox Live on the same date.
Yeah, November. I think I signed up in early December.
Yeah, so whether it was like November 11th or whatever, that might have been
the end of November, because my renewal was always around this time. What is this YouTube video? Us?
No, that's the do-it-yourself mic.
Oh.
Mic thing.
Fitbit commercial. So we need.
$10.
All right, gentlemen. We will see you.
Yep.
Sunday.
Yep. Great. Awesome, guys. Thanks.
Talk to you later.
Yeah. See you. Are you guys uploading it now?
It's already uploaded.
Great.
Already there.
Look. I assume you did it too, Chris. You're usually right on top of it.
For what?
Pac-Man TS. I don't see a Chris one. Oh, you know what? I didn't put mine. I put mine in a root folder, not the date.
That's fine. Leave it. I'll move it.
Yep.
Fine.
Pac-Man _TS.
So, cool. Talk to you guys later.
Cool. Great. Yep. See ya.